My name is Clara. I am 38 years old. I have a daughter. Her name is Nora. She is 12 years old. We live in a small house at the end of a quiet street. Life is simple. Life is calm. Or at least I thought it was, until the day I found the letter. It was a Tuesday morning. Nora was at school. I was cleaning the house. I moved an old box from the top shelf in the bedroom. The box belonged to my mother. She gave it to me before she died. She said, "Do not open this until you are ready." I never opened it. For 7 years, I never touched it. But that morning, the box fell, it hit the floor, and the letter came out. It was old, the paper was yellow, the writing was small and careful. I picked it up. I saw my name on the front, Clara. Just that, one word, my mother's handwriting. My hands were shaking. I sat on the floor. I began to read. The first line stopped my heart. "Clara, you are not my only child." I read it again and again. I could not breathe. My mother had another child. Before me, a child she never told me about, a child she gave away. I sat there on the floor for a long time. I did not move. I did not cry. I just read. And with every line, the world I knew became smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. Her name was Rosa. My mother named her Rosa before giving her away. She was born when my mother was 19 years old. My mother was not married. The family was ashamed. Her father, my grandfather, said, "This child cannot stay." So my mother gave her away. She gave her to a family far away, a family she never knew. She never saw Rosa again, but she never forgot her either. Every year on the same day, she lit a candle in the kitchen. I always thought it was for God. It was for Rosa. I folded the letter. I put it on the table. I walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. A bird sat on the fence. The sky was blue. Nothing had changed outside, but inside me, everything was broken. I had a sister. Somewhere in this world, I had a sister, and I did not know her name, her face, her voice. I only knew the name my mother gave her before letting her go, Rosa. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in the dark and listened to Nora, breathing in the next room. I thought about my mother. I thought about her face the last time I saw her. She was sick. She was tired. She held my hand and said, "Forgive me, Clara." I thought she meant for dying, for leaving me alone. Now I understood. She meant for the secret. She meant for Rosa. The next morning, I called my uncle. His name is Bernard. He is my mother's younger brother. He is 70 years old now. He lives alone in the countryside. He never married. I called him and said, "Uncle Bernard, I found the letter." There was a long silence. Then he said very quietly, "I knew this day would come." He knew. He always knew. I asked him, "Why didn't you tell me?" He said, "Your mother asked me not to. She was afraid. She thought it would hurt you." I said, "Not telling me hurt me more." He was quiet again. Then he said, "Come and see me, Clara. There is more you need to know." More. There was more. I felt cold. I put Nora on the school bus. I drove to Bernard's house. It took 2 hours. The whole way, I kept thinking, what could be worse than this? What else was hidden? What else did my mother keep from me? Bernard was waiting at the door when I arrived. He looked old, older than the last time I saw him. He made tea. He sat across from me at the kitchen table. He looked at his hands for a long time before he spoke. He told me that Rosa was not just given to any family. She was given to the Mercer family, a wealthy family in the north of the country. Bernard said my grandfather knew them. It was arranged quietly, quickly. My mother was not allowed to choose. She was not allowed to say goodbye properly. She was told to sign a paper and forget. She signed, but she never forgot. Then Bernard said something that made me put down my cup. He said, "Rosa came looking for your mother 3 years ago." 3 years ago, my mother was still alive. 3 years ago, she was sick but alive. I said, "What do you mean she came looking?" Bernard said, "She found your mother and she came to the house. They met." I could not speak. My mother met Rosa. My mother knew her. My mother saw her face, and she never told me. I drove home that night feeling nothing or everything. I could not tell the difference. My mother had a secret daughter, and that daughter found her. They met, and I was never told. I sat in my car outside the house for 20 minutes before I could go inside. Nora was already asleep. I kissed her head. I went to my room. I opened the old box again. I looked through everything inside. Old photographs, a small ring, a birthday card from someone I didn't recognize, and at the very bottom, another envelope. This one was not yellow. This one was new. Clean white paper. My name written in a different handwriting. Someone else's hand, someone neat and careful and unknown to me. I opened it slowly. Dear Clara, my name is Rosa. I think you are my sister. I am sorry to write to you like this. I did not know how else. I met your mother 2 years before she died. She told me about you. She said you were kind. She said you were strong. She said she was sorry she never told you about me. She asked me to find you after she was gone. I waited. I was afraid. But here I am. If you want to meet me, I will understand if you don't. But I hope you do. Rosa. My hands were shaking again. She had already written to me. The letter was already in the box. My mother put it there. My mother knew I would find the box one day. She planned this. She left me the letter, and she left me Rosa's letter too. She could not say the words herself, so she let the letter speak for her. Even in death, she was asking for my forgiveness. Even in death, she was trying to hold her 2 daughters together. I read Rosa's letter 4 times. Then I looked at the address at the bottom. She lived 2 hours away. She had been 2 hours away this whole time. My whole life she was 2 hours away, and I didn't know. The next morning, I told Nora. I sat her down at the breakfast table. I said, Nora, I have something important to tell you, something that will surprise you. She looked at me with her big eyes. I said, I have a sister. I only just found out. Her name is Rosa. Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Do you know where she is? I said, yes. She said, Are you going to see her? I looked at my daughter. I looked at her serious little face. I said, Yes, I am. I wrote a letter back to Rosa. I did not call. I did not send a message. I wrote by hand the way she had written to me. I said, Rosa, I found your letter. I am still in shock. I did not know about you until 3 days ago, but I want to meet you. I am not angry. I am only sad that we lost so much time. I hope we can find each other now. Clara. I sent the letter, then I waited. Every morning I checked the post. For 6 days, nothing came. I began to think maybe she changed her mind. Maybe she was afraid. Maybe I had waited too long to reply. On the 7th day, an envelope came. Inside, just one line. Saturday, noon, the cafe on Mercer Street. I'll be the woman who looks a little like you, Rosa. A little like me. I read that line and I cried for the first time since finding the box, not from sadness, from something else, something I had no name for. I was going to see a face that shared my blood. A face formed from the same mother, a woman who grew up without knowing our mother's voice or smell or the way she hummed while she cooked. A woman who had a whole life without me in it, and me without her. Saturday came slowly. I left Nora with a neighbor. I drove north. The road was long and green and quiet. I kept my eyes on the road. I did not play music. I needed the silence. I needed to think. Or maybe I needed to stop thinking. I don't know. I just drove. I arrived early. I sat at a table near the window. I ordered tea. I did not drink. I watched the door. People came in. People went out. And then at exactly noon, the door opened and a woman walked in. She was tall, dark hair. She had a way of holding herself that was quiet and careful. She looked around the room slowly. And then her eyes found mine. She looked like my mother. The same eyes, the same shape of the face, but she also looked like someone I had never met. A stranger built from familiar pieces. She walked to my table. She stopped. She looked at me for a long moment without speaking. Then she said, Clara? I said yes. She sat down. We sat across from each other in silence for a few seconds. I looked at her. She looked at me. 2 women, same blood, strangers, sisters. She said softly, You look like her. I said, So do you. She looked out the window for a moment, then she said, Did she ever talk about me? Before the end, before she got sick? I thought about every conversation I ever had with my mother. Every evening at the kitchen table, every phone call, every quiet Sunday. I thought about the candles she lit every year. I thought about her face in those moments. Distant, somewhere else. I said, Not in words, but I think she thought about you every day. Rosa looked back at me. Her eyes were full. She nodded slowly like she already knew, like she had lived her whole life knowing without being told. Then she said something very quietly, something I was not expecting. She reached into her bag and placed a photograph on the table between us. Old, worn at the edges. It was my mother. Young, 19 maybe, holding a baby, looking at the camera with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Not happiness, not sadness, something deeper, something that had no name. I picked up the photograph with both hands. I looked at my mother's young face. I looked at the baby in her arms. Rosa said, The Mercer family gave it to me when I turned 18. They said a woman came to the house years ago and left it. She didn't give her name. She just said, Give this to Rosa when she is old enough. My mother went to find her. Years after giving her away, my mother went to find her. She left a photograph. She could not knock on the door. She could not speak. But she went. She stood outside that house, and she left a piece of herself behind. That was the closest she could get. And it was enough for Rosa to spend her whole life knowing she was not forgotten. I put the photograph down. I could not hold it anymore. My hands were too full of feeling. Rosa and I stayed in that cafe for 3 hours. We talked, we cried a little, we laughed. Once, at something our mother used to do with her hands when she was nervous, we both knew the gesture. Neither of us understood how. When I drove home, the sky was orange and wide. I thought about secrets, about the things people carry alone because they are too afraid or too ashamed to share. My mother carried Rosa for 50 years. 50 years of silence, 50 years of candles and photographs left at strangers' doors. And at the end, she still could not say the words. She left 2 letters in an old box and hoped that time would do what she could not. I thought about Nora. I thought about what I would tell her, that secrets in families are like cracks in walls. Small at first, easy to ignore, but they grow. And one day the wall falls, and everyone standing near it gets hurt. When I got home, Nora was sitting at the door waiting. She looked at my face. She said, "How was she?" I said, "She looks like grandmother." Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Will we see her again?" I said, "Yes, many times." Nora nodded like that was the only right answer. That night, I lit a candle in the kitchen. I did not know why. I just felt I had to. I sat at the table and looked at the small flame. I thought about my mother at 19, alone, afraid, holding a baby she had to let go. I thought about Rosa growing up in another house with another name on the door, but the same blood in her veins. I thought about all the years that passed without us knowing each other. All the birthdays, all the ordinary Tuesdays, all the moments that could have been shared. The candle burned quietly. Outside the street was dark. Inside the house was warm. I thought about my mother's last words to me. "Forgive me, Clara." I looked at the flame. I said the words out loud for the first time. "I forgive you." The candle did not flicker, but something in me did. A few weeks passed. Rosa and I met again, and again after that. Nora called her Aunt Rosa the very first time she met her. Just like that. No hesitation, no awkwardness, just Aunt Rosa as if she had always been there. As if the years of not knowing were just a long pause in a story that was always going to be told. One afternoon, Rosa came to the house for lunch. After we ate, she walked slowly around the living room looking at the photographs on the wall. Photographs of my mother, of me as a child, of Nora as a baby. She stopped at one photograph for a long time. It was my mother at 60, smiling, sitting in the garden. Rosa touched the frame gently. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Later that evening, after Rosa left, I was washing the dishes. Nora came and stood next to me. She said, "Mom, do you think grandmother is happy now?" I turned off the tap. I looked at my daughter. She was looking at me with those serious eyes. I thought about the letter. I thought about the candle. I thought about a young woman standing outside a stranger's house with a photograph she was too afraid to give in person. I said, "I think she was always looking for a way to make things right. And maybe she finally found it." Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Through us?" I looked at her. I said, "Through us." But that night, lying in the dark, I thought about something Rosa had said the very first day we met, something small that I had pushed aside in all the emotion of that afternoon. She had said, "Clara, there is something else I should tell you, something I found out last year." She had stopped then. She had looked at me carefully like she was measuring whether I was ready, and I had not asked. I had let the moment pass. I had been too full of everything else to take in anymore. I had forgotten about it until now. Lying in the quiet dark, I thought about her face in that moment, the way she stopped, the way she measured, and I felt the cold return, slow and quiet, moving through me like water through old stone. There was something else. There was always something else, and this time I did not know if I was ready to hear it.